Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Man Cave here at Wistful Vistas in beautiful suburban downtown San Diego. I'm going to do a quick video this morning. We're going to do a little bit of a ride. We're going to keep it Italian and stay on the Aprilia here this morning. And part of the reason for the ride is celebratory, of course. I just am still reeling walking on air, actually, after winning the Carbon V4 Panigale built so beautifully by Jared Campesi and Dado and the crew back there in Pennsylvania. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I also want to talk about the fact that I feel a little bit of a responsibility here. Suddenly my channel is getting a lot of new subscribers, so I feel I have to live up to that. And also, being the winner, I recognize how lucky can a person get from thousands of potential winners to be selected. And I feel I owe it to the community and that group somewhat a little bit of a shared experience on what winning such a magnificent machine means and what are the details and nuances involved with letting that happen. So we're going to do a little bit of a quick ride just around the neighborhood and talk about what all that means. So bear with me. It should be a little bit of fun. Let's give it a try. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope we're live. There's always that element of doubt when you get this setup going on. Such are the vagaries and the trials and tribulations of being a motorcycle vlogger. And we never know till we come back and look at it and you either have something usable and people might find interesting or not. And no matter what you do, some people are always going to find it not interesting, not useful. I've already started up the machine. We got her leveled out. Kickstand up. Let's see if we can't find a gear. There she is. Always love that when they hop into gear. Reminds me of old days of racing cars with straight cut transmissions. I don't know if any of you out there have ever heard of a English racing transmission called a Hewland. But they were the early Formula car transmissions. Okay, we're rolling. Hopefully it's all working out here. We're riding through my little neighborhood. I live in a really lovely area. I'm a lucky guy in so many ways. I live in a really lovely area called Santa Luz, which is northern San Diego City and County. We are technically part of the city. So good things about that. A lot to like about San Diego. But let's get into the modal vlog and the reason for riding here and getting this out. First reason for riding and getting this out, and like I say, it's going to be pretty raw, is I want to strike while the iron is hot, and so many people are so euphoric, myself included. So euphoric about this whole Panigale V4 Carbon, and it just seems to me timely to do. Secondarily, as I said, I feel a real responsibility because I was not the only guy that wanted to be a winner in this contest. What is going on here? Whoa. Okay, we've got a lady who's got some issues on alignment. We can just sneak out right behind her. And I feel the responsibility is to the community. Thank you. To the community of fellow riders and the other people that were in that contest out there. And, you know, I'm one of thousands, so how does that happen? I don't know. At times like that, you think, geez, was there a divine intervention? Something. How do you explain it? We seem to go to that when things happen to us that are either off the charts good or off the charts bad. Does it matter? I don't know. In any case, I don't want to wax too philosophical here about this. I just want to acquaint myself with all these new subscribers. Love that auto blipper. Excuse me, quick shifter up, auto blipper down. So I'm hoping you hear this, but a little bit about me. I'm an old guy. I'm not going to get into my age because there's already been plenty of comment about will that old guy really ride that thing, and etc. And here's a couple of truisms. Will I ride it vigorously as some younger guy might have? No. Is it likely I will take it to the track? Well, I'm kind of undecided about that. I've done, here goes the auto blipper. Oh, could we make this signal? Could we please? Pretty please? No, can't. So, I've done numerous track days in the past. In fact, I used to drive racing cars. And one of the things that I always enjoyed... Are you recording? I don't know. I'm going to carry on this part and then we'll restart. So one of the things I always enjoyed was track days, particularly back in the days when I drove a pure sang racing car. But even during the days when I drove a modified street car on the track, I think that's the ideal place to test for speed, absolutely, because you don't know your limits, and the best way to explore them is on a track where you're surrounded by people who have the same mind, and you know the environment. The track is kept good for racing purposes. So there's a maybe there, but quite likely not. So get that out of the way right away. Will I enjoy riding this machine, however? Absolutely. I am going to be looking so forward to this. Am I scared of it? No. Am I respectful of it? Well, heck yes. Sorry, lady. You just looked a little challenging there. And what does that mean, respectful? Well, that means that I know certainly my limits. Well, I do, I think I do, maybe I don't. But I do not know that machine's limits, and I will probably stay a little further away from the edge of that envelope than perhaps someone else might. But those are given. So that's me. How did I come to the motorcycle journey? So let's go way back and talk about during my college days. I started riding motorcycles in college out of economic necessity. My first machine was not sporting nor in any way notable. It was a Honda Dream, twin-cylinder, pressed steel frame, but you could fill that thing on Sunday and drive it until 2 Sundays next to put gasoline in it. Very cheap to purchase, very cheap to own, and it therefore served its purpose, absolutely. During that time, which is a couple, 3 years driving around the streets of Long Beach and city traffic and things, by the way, during which I did have a crash or two. You do. If you have a motorcycle or if you walk across a log, be prepared to fall off or crash. So during that time, of course, the motorcycles that I really lusted after were obviously higher performance potential. And amongst these, the one that I quite clearly recall was the Triumph Bonneville, twin-cylinder, twin-carbureted Triumph Bonneville. Oh boy, did I want that machine. But never got it. So rode the Hondas, got through school as much as I was going to do then got into the gene pool, had a couple of great kids, lovely kids. I love them. Nothing more I would ask for in life than kids and even grandkids, which is a whole different subject. But that meant that I obviously had commitments and responsibilities that transcended riding on the street anyway for fun or for economic activity. So at that time, as my son got a little older, we got some dirt bikes, and I spent a lot of years. In those days, California, you wouldn't believe it now to look around, but in those days, Southern California was a fairly rural area. It was large tracts undeveloped, and you could actually find some pretty wide open places, even in Los Angeles County, to go ride your dirt bike and do some, I won't call them crazy things, but some fun things. And I did that for any number of years. Then career intervened, and my career took me to travel to a whole lot of parts of the world. And my career was in manufacturing. We made industrial instruments for pressure, and if that sounds boring, sorry, it really wasn't, but, and I'll always be forever grateful for having been in that industry. But there aren't many countries or states, I don't know that there is a state I have not visited, and I've been on every continent in pursuit of that, and worked with places like the Department of Defense. I'm going to duck in here and make sure that this thing is recording, so bear with me a minute. And let's keep that thought about the Department of the Defense in our minds as I come in and check to see if we are in fact recording. So stand by a minute. We're recording, so let's go back to Department of Defense. So I did that for many years. During that time, I've always been a gearhead, always loved cars and things like that, things of that nature. And during that time, though, I was driving company cars or family sedans of really utilitarian value. I was lucky I was able to have some really nice cars, of course, but it was more important that they were utilitarian and things. But then the kids left, and I got very involved with Porsches and racing them and that sort of thing. I'll post a couple of photos of my old Porsche days and my old race car for you guys. You might be interested in it. And doing that, you see me? Yes, you do. Doing that satisfied that sort of need for speed. I ended up with a, after having gone through a twin turbo, I ended up with a GT3, which is a, what a machine, what a fun. Machine, but that had to go, because at a certain vintage, let's go around this person, at a certain vintage, you got to recognize that your reflexes and things don't put you out on track on that close to the edge of the envelope, or perhaps your responsibilities add up. And I looked around for something that I wanted to do, something that I'd enjoyed to do that would kind of take the place of that old GT3. Wow. And I recalled back, I looked back with fondness at my motorcycle days, and that beckoned. And I made a bargain with myself and with Mrs. Cooper, she's a partner in the firm, that I would go to the basic motorcycle training school, and if I felt that I was competent and capable and had the balance, that I would think about getting back into motorcycling. I went to the basic motorcycle school, the MCE I think is called, and I highly recommend that for everybody. And to my surprise, I actually did better than a lot of the young people, for the very singular reason that I knew what a clutch was and how to use it. Most people growing up within the last 30 or 40 years would be likely never to have driven or ridden anything that had a clutch that you needed to worry about manipulating to keep the car going. I had deep experience with clutches, and of course previous experience on motorcycles, so I actually came out of there pretty jazzed.
and very enthusiastic. Passed the class. In California, you need an M endorsement on your license to be able to register and operate and insure a motorcycle. So that class, having passed that class, there's two ways you get that M endorsement. One is you go through the MCE schools. I think it's MCE. I'll double check that. The other is that you do a series of described maneuvers in front of a person from the DMV. That DMV person does not care one way or the other, is likely not a motorcycle rider, is only there to check a box. So it's much better to go through the MCE, especially if you're coming back on it. So my first machine, coming back, jazzed, all excited, my first machine, and I would recommend this to anybody, was a Kawasaki Ninja 650. Now the Ninja is not a lay-down drop handlebar bike. It's a raised bike, but it is faired, and it has just enough performance at 70-some horsepower that you don't own it for a month and get very disappointed in the power delivery. And that's a common theme in motorcycles, especially people starting out. That thing got me for about a year going on. Loved it, had fun wrenching on it. Once again now, motorcycles are still tunable and changeable to a degree that automobiles are not of any ilk. Most automobiles now are so highly electronic and set up that they're really not kind for what we used to call the shade tree mechanic. Okay, just one person coming, we're good. Motorcycles still allow that possibility. So I had a great time doing that, outgrew it ultimately, and fell in love with the look of MV Agusta and the legend and the lore of them. And my next machine, therefore, was a triple 800-something cc MV Agusta Brutale triple, which I still think is just one gorgeous machine. Let's face it, I'm riding an Aprilia Tuono right now. It's gorgeous. The Italians know how to combine superb mechanical performance and speed with an aesthetic that makes them proud inheritors of, let's say, Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. If they were around, they would probably own Ferraris or MV Agustas or who knows, Aprilias. Couldn't say. But so that was the next one. I had that for a year or so, and then graduated to got a chance to get a BMW S1000 single R. I know some people have written double R. It's not a double R, it's a single R. And jumped on that because I wanted something that I love four cylinders. I love the sound of the four cylinders, and I wanted something that would really be a rocket ship. And had that for a couple of years. I was able to buy this machine 2014. Had been sitting on the dealership. Had that for a couple of years, and always lusted after the Aprilia. I had test-ridden a couple of Aprilias, test-ridden the RSV, test-ridden the early version of the Tuono, and just loved them. Loved the looks, loved the performance, loved the sound. I mean, listen to this sound. Who wouldn't love that? Who would not love that? So, loved them, and ultimately was able to step up, thanks to Grand Prix Motorcycles in San Diego, and get a 2017 Aprilia Tuono factory, which is what you are riding on with me right now, friends. So that describes my current ownership. BMW 2014 BMW S1000R and 2017 Aprilia Tuono factory V4. One of them is going to have to go. Mrs. Cooper is not going to allow me to keep three motorcycles in there. In fact, two pushes her buttons a little bit, but not sure. It's probably going to be the Beamer. Unfortunately, I say that with some reluctance because I have nothing against that Beamer. That machine is awesome. And that, I guess I better slow down. That says 35 miles an hour. Ooh-wee. So, that machine is just awesome. But of the ones that I own, that's the one that's probably the one that's going to go. So that one will go to make room for the Panigale. All right, that's my machine ownership history, my motorcycle ownership history. Last thing to talk a little bit about is the what I will do. Again, I'm going to mention I feel responsibility to the public to let them share, at least vicariously, in what all this means. I mean, this is just unbelievable, and I want to follow through on that. The other thing is that I'm sort of blown away by how many people, listen to that downshifter, by how many people are signing up to be on my channel. Traffic, one of the ironies of owning something that you can really wrench and speed around on. But I feel like I have a responsibility to share that ownership experience and working through the whole thing. And I intend to share as much of that as I can within bounds of privacy, and of course, and with respect to Jarrett and his channel. And I mean that by letting you know, like, what your responsibilities are going to be should you win one, and so on and so forth, and what it's going to cost me to insure it, which will be a pretty penny, and get it on the road, keep it on the road, that sort of thing. I have an idea. I'm going to try and check into something tomorrow. I'm going to go for another ride tomorrow to a local motorcycle dealership that I've had some relations with. Great group of guys here in San Diego. They're over in Escondido. And I've got an idea I want to try out. I don't want to mention it because I don't want to put them in the spot, on the spot, of if they don't do what I'd like to suggest, that it gives them any kind of heartache or bad name amongst the riding community. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to go over there. I'm going to ride over there tomorrow. Maybe I'll take the video camera along for that. And I've got an idea, and I think it could be a little fun, and I'll share that with you as the time comes. So there you have it. Here's my turnoff. Watch out, this thing is always loaded with gravel and stuff like that. Got to be careful here. The San Diego police are not merciful. I've got an idea and I want to try it out. I'm going to run it past them. Okay, so that's it. A little bit about me, the area, the background, where and how I came to my motorcycle ownership cycle, let's call it, and sit back, enjoy the rest of the ride. We're heading back now. Okay, I'm going to break back in and mention, speaking of ironies, and the fact you have this machine that'll go a bazillion miles an hour, and chances are every time you get that little twisty section of road that you would really like to be on, you're going to end up behind a queue of cars. But the irony extends, ladies and gentlemen. We are following what we in the United States call a honey wagon. Now that's a euphemism. It is not a honey wagon. There is nothing associated with honey on that truck. Honey wagon is a truck they use to transport field toilets around on, outhouses we call them. So I'm 4 cars I guess it is, behind an outhouse truck. So oh gosh, there it is, there you have it. Riding motorcycles in general. Beautiful day. All right, out again. Hey, thanks, buddy. They know me. We're now entering the grounds of our little shtetl. The concentration camp, as I like to call it. Anything that goes wrong in here is definitely a first world problem. Lovely, lovely road. I'm exceeding the speed limit right now, as a matter of fact. It is 25 miles per hour. They do watch it. And yeah, you can do that. You could do that in any gear on this machine and then some. And I've often fantasized, it's such a good road, such a great road. I've often fantasized that, particularly back in the days when I had the GT3 through here, and of course now with this machine, I've often fantasized like, man, would I love somebody just wave a checkered flag at the entrance to Santa Luz and let me get through the grounds here as quickly as I could. Oh brother, oh brother, it's the stuff dreams are made out of. So as we're just drooling and dribbling along here on this little road, I'll mention the fact that during my trials of different machines, as I progressed from that Kawasaki through the Brutale, through the Beamer, through this Aprilia, I rode some sports machines. I rode the V4R, which is incredible, absolutely incredible. And why didn't I get one of those before now that this carbon Panigale is on the way here? Well, fairly simple. I told you early on in this video that I'm an old guy. I am an old guy, and thank you for stopping and preserving the life of this old guy, sir. And I have a limited seat time under the best of circumstances. You try hauling around my old bladder and see how far you get. So that's the primary limiting factor. The other is the old body doesn't fold up as tightly as it used to. I do have to be aware, and cricks and creaks can develop. So that riding position for anything over an hour or two would be and will be challenging for me, but luckily there's some great roads I can do within an hour or two here. Secondarily, one of the things that I really noticed about some of the sports machines that I rode, drop bars. We used to call them drop bars or clip-on bar machines, and I don't know, I guess now you would just call them fully fared like sports machines. But one of the things I noticed about them is that they're geared really tall. This thing is geared pretty tall. You can, I could break the speed limit in first gear on this, particularly in here. But this thing is geared pretty tall, but those are geared very tall. They have a track focus, so you want to punch through the air at that track at as high a rate of speed as your machine will allow you to do. And on the street, there's some inconsistencies with that, with street riding. You get used to it, can and have done. You get used to it, you just trundle along. You just forget you've got any gear, third through sixth, until you get on the freeway and you're just droning along. But that was the other issue I had with them, is that they're geared so tall that their street practicality sometimes is can be a challenge, particularly with the electronic tuning that they have on them as they come from the factory. Now, this machine, this carbon Panigale, has been dyno tuned at a really great location. So I think some of this ka-chunka chunka, you can hear me now doing a little bit of the ka-chunka chunka as I come up the road. But I think Jarrett and his crew will have addressed some of that with the dyno tuning that they did. Let me see if I can find neutral here. There, got neutral. And let's drop the stand. Dropping the stand. Let's take a look back at her. Yeah, she does run a little cooler, I think, since I put on that Acra exhaust. There she is, ladies and gentlemen, the 2017 Aprilia Tuono. Tony Thunder is going to have a garage mate. Hey, hope you enjoyed at least parts of this video. Let me know, comment, whatever, as I'm sure you will. And we will be talking to you. Bye for now.